Hello, welcome to my Iran war talks. We will be striking tomorrow. We will be having a draft. 18 to, I don't know, 47-year-olds will all be required to join. Thank you. The bombs will be okay, I'm sorry. In all seriousness, my political beliefs aside, we are here to do a realistic NBA mock draft. Now, I'm sorry, I know I'm recording this on my phone. I tried recording it on OBS. I have a Mac. You can record on OBS, but I also don't know where it was recording to. And I also couldn't figure out how to interact with the website itself in a way that you guys could see it. So yeah, we're doing our best here, but I can promise you we'll have a good time, hopefully. But with the number 1 pick, I of course am taking none other than the GOAT. I mean, some say he's going to be the best player in the league immediately. Boogie Flan. No, I'm just kidding. It's, of course, Cooper Flagg for the Mavericks. Easy. Not too much I need to say about him. Sorry, I don't... How do I draft the SLB? No, I don't... No, the freaking ad was blocking it. Okay. Next up, we have the Spurs. Now, the Spurs are interesting because apparently they've gotten calls from everybody for this pick. So, I guess people are as high on Dylan Harper as I am. I think Dylan Harper is going to be really good, especially if he gets a pull-up game going. I mean, it's deuces. No McBride. But for now, I'm not planning on doing any trades just because so many details are muddled. But I mean, from everything I've seen as well, even the Sixers are interested in trading up to that number 2 pick. Obviously, the Jazz are, the Wizards are, any team within the lottery, reportedly at least, has had talks about trading up to the number 2 pick. Now, that's not out of the usual, but the fact it's been so public is what's interesting to me. The fact the Jazz and the Wizards and the Sixers are all reportedly desperately trying to move up to the number 2 pick is interesting, so... I don't think that pick gets traded, as much as I think it probably should be traded. I think Dylan Harper's long-term outlook is better than Fox, better than Castles, better than Vassell, although, I mean, Harper's probably a 1. But as much as it does create some sort of logjam at guard, I think you just draft the kid and figure it out. So with that, I'm taking Dylan Harper at number 2. Now, the 3rd pick to me is where the draft really starts. Now, I have Trey Johnson 3rd, for many of you who know, or for anybody who saw my last mock draft, big board, whatever you want to call it. I have Trey Johnson 3rd. Now, I don't love having him 3rd. I'm scared of having him 3rd. But he's a player archetype that I usually hate, don't get me wrong. But he's also a unique enough player in that archetype to make me kind of like him. I'm not a huge VJ guy. I'm not a huge Ace guy. I am a big Con guy, but I think realistically, this team doesn't need a star. This team still believes in their Maxey, George, Embiid combo. Despite them trying to trade George, they at least believe in the Maxey, McCain combo. Now, do I think it's a little bit weird to draft a shooting guard? Yeah. Do I think VJ could play some 3? Probably not, but maybe. I think they try him there. I think he's a little bit too skinny and small. But I think VJ is a totally fine project for the Sixers to handle. And I think he's going to be a day 1 ready guy. As much as I don't think he's going to be a star, as much as I don't necessarily trust him ever getting a handle, as much as I don't necessarily trust him finishing, I think he's a smart player. I think he's going to be a good defender who has a bit of star upside, but I think at the worst he's going to be just an elite role player. So I'm going to take VJ 3rd. Now, number 4 is interesting because it's the Hornets. I don't know what they do. I'm not sure anybody on that team knows what they're doing. I'm not sure... Who's their GM? I apologize. I should have looked this up before. Hornets. Is it still... Jeff Peterson. Okay, that's what I thought. I'm not sure Jeff Peterson knows what he's doing, per se. I've heard them talking about maybe trading LaMelo. I've heard them, I mean, they are obviously tried to trade Mark Williams already. I've heard them trying to trade Miles Bridges. I'm just laughing because that's such an absurd contract to give a guy like that. So I don't know what they do. I don't know what they do. But for me, the Hornets are in a pick where you just have to take that upside swing. And as much as I may be a little bit lower on Asa than some of the teams in the league, I think he's a totally fine upside swing. And at the 4th pick in the draft, I take no issue with it. Now, this is where I had Con ranked. I have Con higher than Ace. But I think Ace does have a higher ceiling. I think his floor is fine, too. Him being 6'8" really hurts his stock in my mind. If he was like a pure 6'10", that's super interesting. But him being 6'8" does hurt it. But I'm still going to take Ace. A lot of upside. Interesting player. I think could theoretically fit next to, LaMelo, Miller, whoever they draft with the 33rd pick. I think he slots in totally fine at the 4. So I'm going to draft Ace. I don't love it, but I think you're to the point now where anything can happen, really. I've seen rumors of the Hornets trading back, the Jazz trading up, Jazz trading back. I don't know what they do. This is, in my mind, one of the few drafts where there's been, the least consensus lottery, we'll say. 1 and 2 are fairly set, but, even from 2 to, 16, I have no idea what they're doing. This is what I think they'll do. Maybe in the future I'll do a video on what I think the teams should do. But yeah, I'm going with Ace at number 4. Next up, the Utah Jazz, or my Utah Jazz. Now, did I intentionally let Trey Johnson fall because I want the Jazz to draft him? Maybe. No, not really, but... Now, the obvious pick here would be Con Knipple, just because it's the Angels. But I gotta go Trey. Big perimeter shot maker. 6'6", 19, 20 points, 42 from the field, but 40% from 3. No ceilings, has him ranked 6. I have him a little bit higher. As much as I have some fears with the defense and the passing, if he hits, he's going to be really good. Next up are the Washington Wizards. Now, I would actually really like a Derek Queen type here. It's a little high for Derek Queen in my eyes. And the Wizards are a team that I think do try and make a move no matter the circumstance. I don't think Con makes a ton of sense for them. I don't think somebody like a Carter Bryant makes a ton of sense for them, and that's absurdly high to have him ranked at 9. Jesus Christ, no ceilings. I like a Noah Essengay there. I like a Derek Queen. I like a Common. But I think Derek Queen is probably the logical pick here. I think he slots in well next to somebody who can theoretically shoot, at the very least defend the rim, and I think it gives that team an interesting passing aspect that they didn't have before. I think it's a worthwhile swing. I'm not crazy high on Derek, but I think it's a totally fine, worthwhile swing. And I think theoretically he fits next to... they drafted him 2nd last year. I really liked him. I had him first. I can't think of his name. You know who I'm talking about. No, that was 2024. Excuse me. I'm just looking this up because this is going to bug me if I don't get it. Alex Sarr. Okay, there we go. I think he should theoretically slot in well next to Alex Sarr. I don't love it, but I think if the board breaks this way, it's sort of unfortunate for them. But I'm going to go Derek Queen here. For the New Orleans Pelicans, I'm going to take somebody that people are a little lower on, and I'm actually really high on. I'm going to take Thomas Sorber. Now, Sorber does have some questions with his health. He does have some questions with his athleticism, but I think his defensive upside is really high. He averaged 2 steals, 2 blocks a game in college. He held opponents to 57% at the rim, which sounds like a lot, but it's pretty good. That's pretty good, I'll be honest. And he also shot fairly well at the rim. He's an elite post player who's shown some flashes of shooting and some passing. I don't know if I necessarily trust the shooting. And I wish he was a little bit more athletic so he could be a bit of a lob threat, but I think he could be, theoretically, a really good fit next to Zion, a really good fit next to Trey, depending on what they do with him. But I think he's just a really interesting fit with the team. I think he's a totally fine, worthwhile upside swing. And even though the athleticism isn't anything insane, if he can become a decent lob catcher, pick and roll player, if he can develop a bit of a shot or a face-up game, even a push shot, I think he's going to be really good. And I think his defensive upside is sky high. Smart player. I think he fits really well. Next up, the Brooklyn Nets are picking. Now, the Brooklyn Nets have a pretty interesting selection of picks here. They have 8, 19, 26, 27, 36. Now, the bottom half of this draft ended up being just totally shithouse. Like, probably worse than the bottom half of last year's draft, if I'm being totally honest. Because the bottom half of last year's draft had plenty of good role players. Like, it was a deep draft if you're not looking for any high upside swings last year. The Nets are in a place here where I think they're interesting because their coach is really good. He led them to, more wins than they probably should have. Not probably, more wins than they should have had, Jordi Fernandez. I want to give them a con because I think he would be a really interesting aspect there. I want to give him some sort of creator just because I think that team actually could be pretty decent with a creator. Like, I think Jace here would be interesting. I think somebody like a Con here would be interesting. Kasparis maybe, but I'm not terribly high on him. Same with Fears. But I'm going to go just with somebody who I have mocked fairly high, and that's Kamon Malwatch. Absolutely huge center. Didn't play a ton, but he's 7'2", 250 pounds. I think he has like a 9'10" standing reach. Smart player, hasn't been playing basketball very long, has a pretty high ceiling. Can catch a lot. I think he's just going to be really good overall. I think you want to try and trade Claxton. I never want to, speculate on the guy's mental health, but he doesn't seem to be happy there, to say the least. And I think Kamon is a really good upside swing for them when there's not a ton at this point in the draft. Do I wish they had a creator? Yes. Could I see Fears going here? Maybe. But I think Kamon is totally fine here. I know they have a bit of a backlog at center position, but I don't think Day'Ron Sharpe has really shown enough to worry about drafting over him. I don't think Noah Clowney shown enough to really worry about drafting over him, and I actually think he can play the 4. And I think Nick Claxton is likely gone. I think Day'Ron Sharpe could probably be gone too. I could totally see them going a Fears. I could totally see them going a Con. I don't really see them going a Carter Bryant, but for me, I think Kamon would be a perfect fit here, and I think he's probably most likely. Next up, we have the Wizards. The Raptors. Now, the Raptors are interesting because if Kamon fell this far, it would be Jover. That is a Masai guy to a T. Masai loves a guy who's long, sort of theoretical, can maybe shoot, can maybe pass. Masai, if I'm being totally honest, not a great drafter. But here, I think Noah Essengay fits really well with a Messiah guy. He's huge. He's theoretical. Again, absurd rankings. Foreign player. I think he's going to fit perfectly into Masai's wet dream of player build. I don't love him on the team, but I've seen Noah Essengay sort of skying up mock drafts, and I think he's perfectly a Masai guy. I don't love the fit on there at all. I think they already have too many wings, but who knows. For the 10th pick, I have the Rockets taking Con Knipple. I think he fits perfectly there. I know you maybe worry about drafting over a Reed Shepherd type, but I think Con could maybe play 1 through 3. I'm pretty high on Con. Again, I had him ranked 4th. But I think Con can theoretically play at least 2 through 3. I think he does have a bit of creation pop. I think he does have a bit of passing pop. And at the very least, he's going to be one of the better shooters in this draft. And what do the Rockets need? Shooting. I think they need some creation, and I think Con can provide that. I think they need a little bit of extra passing. I think Con can provide that. I think he's going to slot in really well next to, Van Vliet. Jalen Green, who knows? That's partially why I'm drafting Con, just because, by all reports, Rockets don't want Jalen Green. But But either way, I think he slots in very well as like a 6th, 7th man, or as a starter next to Van Vliet, Kahn, Thompson, Smith, or whoever they want to put there. Eason, there's options. And then Şengün. I think that could be a really good starting lineup, and I think he just fits perfectly there. So, at number 10, I also think they can mask up some of his defensive worries. As much as I think they are overblown, I think Kahn just fits perfectly there. With the 11th pick, the Portland Trailblazers are up. Now, they're an interesting team because I don't know how much they're investing in Scoot. They already have a ton of centers, but I don't know how much they're investing in any of them. They already have a bunch of wings, but I don't know how much they're investing in them. We don't know how the Blazers necessarily value their guys, and ultimately, I don't either. I know I'm going to be higher on some of the guys on that team than other people, and I know I'm going to be lower on some of the guys on that team than other people. So, I just don't know. I want them to take sort of an upside swing, with like a Colin Murray Boyles, actually I'm not very high on a Ben Sarah, Nolan Traore, but I think they probably go with a Carter Bryant. They've shown they have interest in big long wings, hence Denny Abdia, hence, how do I exit out of this? I guess, might not let me. Hence Danilo Benton, hence Matisse Thybulle, hence Denny Abdia, hence, let me exit out of this, please. Okay, well, I guess I drafted Carter Bryant. But they've shown they have an interest in big, long wings. I think Carter Bryant, as lower as I am on him compared to other people, I think he's an interesting swing, and I think a 3-and-D guy would fit perfectly with what they're looking for. I think the Blazers think they're more in, not contention, but in the mix than they really are. So I think they draft a guy who sort of mocks out as a really good role player, a really good defender, and a really good shooter, and I think that's fine. I don't necessarily take any issue with him doing that, but yeah. Next up, the Chicago Bulls are up. Now, the Chicago Bulls are interesting because Karnisovas is a dumbass. I don't know what he does. This team is already, pretty old. I think they're already over the cap. They have Lonzo, they have Vooch, and they have Patrick Williams. Those are probably 3 of their better players. Kobe White, Giddey. They have a bunch of guards. They have a bunch of weird wings in Williams, in Giddey, if you want to call him a wing, in DeSumo, if you want to call him a wing, in Buzelas, in Terry, in Tucker, and in Julian Phillips. Their center rotation is pretty weak, but we're to the point now where there's not a ton of centers. I could totally see them going like a Danny Wolf type. I think that would be an interesting pick. I don't love the fit, but I think he slots in pretty well as a Vooch replacement. Vooch is getting up there in age. As much as he had a hot start to the year, he is 34. I think he is expiring this year. I'm going to take Danny Wolf here, but I could totally see them drafting a Kasparis, a Fears, a Demin. I don't see them going Clifford, but I could see them going a Boyles. I could see them going a Coward. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Danny Wolf here. He's been, really rising up on a lot of people's mocks. Somebody who can theoretically shoot, pass, defend, just an interesting player overall. A little bit older. He's a junior. But, yeah. Next up, we have the Atlanta Hawks. With the Atlanta Hawks pick, I am going to draft Kasparis Jakučionis. Now, I know you're probably yelling at the screen saying, oh, and they have Trae Young. Trae Young has been on, the trade block for years, reportedly. This is a young team. We saw them get younger with drafting Ariza Shea rather than trading that pick. We saw them get younger with acquiring Daniels. They have Johnson. They have Buffkin. Just a bunch of young guys who are interesting, but again, young. And Trae Young just no longer really fits into that timeline. I think Kasparis Jakučionis, either way, is a totally fine prospect. Does he fit next to Trae? No. But I also think we're to the point in the draft now where you don't draft a Colin Murray Boyles, you have Johnson. You don't draft a Demin, you have Trae, and Demin's much more of a project. You don't draft, you maybe draft a Rasheer Fleming, but I don't think you do. I think Kasparas Jakuchonis is like a totally fine pick for them. As low as I am on him, I think he does fit what the Hawks are looking for. I think he's totally a Quinn Snyder guy. And again, I could be way off here. This is a team that like I have no idea what they're trying to do. This is a team I have no idea what they're looking for. But I think Kasparas Jakuchonis, if they do end up trading Trey, is a fine investment. I have him a little bit lower, late lottery, early 20s. But I think he just fits totally fine here. If there was a center available, I do think they take one. But seeing as the board has fallen this way, I don't think they do. Next up, we have the San Antonio Spurs. This is formerly the Hawks pick. Now, again, I don't know entirely what they do here. Their depth is really interesting. They're going to have a lot of guards at this point. I don't think they go guard. But their wing depth is pretty bad. They have Champagny, who I like, but they don't seem to like a ton. They have Sohan. He was benched a lot of the year and just didn't get a ton of minutes. They have Barnes, who's old, Keldon, who's bad, and Vassell, who I've seen some reports of them trading, and I think we're to the point now where you don't necessarily worry about drafting over him. Now, I do think they probably should go a center at some point in this draft. Their only centers are Charles Bassey, who I like, older and injury prone. Not old, I mean, he's like 26 and injury prone. Sandro Mamukelashvili, who I don't think is an NBA player, as much as I love his name. And then that's sort of it. You have injury concerns with Wemby. You have injury concerns with Bassey, who I think is a totally fine backup center. And then you also weirdly have injuries concerns with Sandro Mamukelashvili. So, though I don't think they draft a center, I think they should. But I think they draft a Cedric Howard. 6'6" guard, senior, can play the small forward, is theoretically a good 3-and-D guy, can fit well in their wing rotation. I think they're looking for shooters. I think they're looking for somebody who can just be a bit of an upside swing as well. So I'm going to draft Cedric Howard here. Though he is sort of a weirder player, I think he slots in really well next to Wemby. I think he's somebody that the Spurs should look at. Again, I have no idea what any of these teams are doing. Each team, I think, has thought about moving all of their picks. Like, seriously, you're not just, like, calling around and asking. Because the bottom of the draft sort of falls out. But I could see them going a Neek. I could see them going a Rasheer. I could see them going a Demin. I could see them going somebody like a Nolan Traore. I could see them going like who's that French big? Whose name I can't think. French big, can't remember his name. I can't exit out of this page. But I'm going to pick Cedric Howard for them. I think he's an interesting fit, and I sort of like him there. I don't know, again, if that's what they do, but who knows. Here we have the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, I think the Oklahoma City Thunder are in a position where they don't need any more guards. They have Topic coming back. They have Shea. Like, I mean, as much as I would like them to draft somebody who is a bit of a scorer, somebody who can pass, somebody who can shoot, somebody who can get them a bucket, and this is being recorded on the 21st at 2:41 p.m., so we don't have the finals result yet. But a lack of creation is something that I've seen them struggle with. So I'm tempted to either pick Jeremiah Fears, who I have falling a bit. I don't know if teams have him terribly high. I have Fears, and I have Colin Murray Boyles. Now, Boyles is much more of an upside swing, but their forward room is pretty strong already. I think Fears falls this far, and I think he would. I think he's totally an Oklahoma City Thunder guy. I think he's somebody who could theoretically fit in with them really well. And ultimately, he's a tradable asset. I think teams are going to have him higher than I do. And again, this is always going to have some sort of opinion in here. Again, this is a mix of opinion and what I think teams should do. Because ultimately, again, I don't know what these teams are going to do. This has been like such a private draft. I could see Harper falling. I don't want to see Harper falling. I could see Ace falling. I think he's taking his draft stock. I could see Fears rising. I could see a Demin being taken top 10. I could see a Rasheer falling into the 20s. I could see a Will Riley being drafted in the lottery. Like, I just don't know. Teams have not given any information on what they want to do. Maybe I'll have to go back and do this as some time goes on. But I have fears falling. I don't think he makes a ton of sense for most of the teams in the lottery so far. And I think he does make sense on the Thunder. 6'4" guard. I don't love him as a player. I have him mocked late in the first. Smaller guard with bad efficiency, can't shoot, can't pass, and the passes he does make are largely due to his athleticism, which I think wanes in the NBA. But he does have some star upside. He's 19, very young, led an Oklahoma team, to pretty good results. He would be a hometown kid. Like, I don't know. I think he fits. Next up, the Memphis Grizzlies are interesting because now they have a shooting guard-sized hole where Desmond Bane used to fill. Now, I would like a Colin Murray-Boyles here. I think they have, I can't recall exactly who they have, but they've been able to develop a lot of their guys' shots. Jackson, Conchar, Santi, Vince Williams, Scottie Pippen, Gigi Jackson, Wells, all guys who had questions about their shot, and now are all pretty good shooters. I like Colin here. I think he would be a really good fit. But I don't know what the Grizzlies do here. And this is their pick from the Wizards trade, by the way. I think they probably go a Nick Clifford type here just because he's an older shooting guard, somebody who can theoretically score, somebody who can pass a bit. Or I think they maybe go with a Jace Richardson type. I could see them going like a Ben Sarah type. But I'm going to take Nick Clifford here. Somebody who theoretically mocks in as a really good role player, somebody who can theoretically shoot, pass a bit, score, and somebody who can fit in well next to Ja and Jaren, theoretically. I'm lower on Clifford than most people, but I think he's a Memphis Grizzlies guy through and through. Next, we have the Wolves. Now, the Wolves are interesting because they, by all reports, seem to be the leader in the Kevin Durant race. I know Durant said he doesn't want to go there. I don't think the Suns or the Wolves care. They're an interesting team because they are pretty well-rounded. I think they're going to have to trade some guys to dump some cap. Like, I think you probably let Nikhil walk. I think you work on trading Conley. I don't know if you keep Dante, but I think you're fine with trading him. I could see them letting Nas walk. Like, they're pretty well over the cap. They're $27 million over the first and $16 into the second apron. If they make a Kevin Durant trade, by the way, they can get out of the aprons, which is insane, depending on how they do it. But I think you want a little bit more scoring. You do have Dillingham still, so that makes it a little bit tough. I don't know how they view Dillingham. I don't necessarily take any sort of issue with drafting over him, but I don't know. They don't necessarily have any positions they're weak in other than guard, but they also have a lot of guards. I'm going to take a wing for them, and it's not a pick I love, but I'm going to take Rasheer Fleming. Senior theoretically fits in as like a John Collins with defense type. I'm a little worried that he was beating up on worse competition as an older player and that his efficiency jumped up in the way it did. I don't know if that translates, but I think theoretically he can fit well next to Ant if the shooting holds. I think he can be a good lob threat. I think he can be a good defender. He's somebody who I really like and somebody I think that the Wolves would totally draft. Next up, we have the Washington Wizards. Now, they're an interesting one because they did recently draft last year, what's his face? Where is their roster? Good God. I apologize. I should have worked on this a little bit more. They do still have Marcus Smart. They do still have Jordan Poole. They do have A.J. Johnson. They do have Bub Carrington. They do have Bilal. Like, they have a lot of guards. They have Brogdon still. I don't think they value Brogdon much, but they have a lot of guards. Saddiq Bey is going to come back. I don't know if they necessarily try and draft over Bub. I don't necessarily know how they view Bub. I view Bub much more as like an off-ball 1 or 2 type rather than your primary creator. I think the Wizards are in a spot where they can take a swing and be happy with whatever result they get. And I think you're late enough into the draft that I think you're fine with taking a swing. I think they have too many guys in their front court to go with a Colin Murray-Boyles or an Asa. I think center-wise, I drafted Derek Queen to them. I think you still think Sarr can play some center. You have Saddiq Bey, who theoretically can play a little bit of small ball 5. You have Richaun Holmes. I think you either need to go center, which we're to the point now where there's not really any good ones. There's Cal Brenner, who I'm not high on, Joanne Beringer, Johnny Broom, Maxime Reynaud. Like, there's guys. I don't know how highly they view any of them, and especially after drafting Queen. I think you go an upside swing, and I think Igor Damin here is totally fine. 6'9" point guard. Not very good offensively, but he's humongous. Like, let me look up his measurables. Like, he's not a guy who you see come around often, much less with his passing ability. He's 6'8" barefoot, taller than Ace, 200 pounds with a 6'10" wingspan and an 8'9.5" standing reach. That's absurd. This guy is huge. If the offense develops a bit, I think he's going to be a really good point guard. Is he ever an all-star? Probably not. But I think he could be. 6'9", one of the better passers I've seen in a while. The issue is he's a bit Ben Simmons-y, where he can't really work within the paint yet. But I think with Queen, and I think with Sarr, that gives them some extra space. I still think they need passing. I still think they need a pick-and-roll ball handler. And I think they know that. I think that's why they traded for Smart. I think that's why they drafted a Bub Carrington type. I think that's why they traded for Jones. I think they need another handler. And I think Damin can fill that role beautifully. Now, this is the the Nets pick from the Bucks. Now, I drafted Common with their last pick. I think their wing and forward rotation are pretty weak. I think they do work on trading a Cam Johnson type. I think they work on trading a Nick Claxton. I think they work on probably trading a Day'Ron. And then the rest of the guys, I don't worry about drafting over. I have a Jalen Wilson, who's interesting but didn't show us a ton. Same with Lewis, same with Martin, same with Keon Johnson, same with Dariq Whitehead, same with Williams. Melton's still on the team. D'Lo's still on the team. But I think at the very least, Nick Claxton, Cam Johnson, maybe DeAnthony Melton and D'Lo, depending on how teams view them, and Day'Ron Sharpe are all going to be gone. So I think you're in a position now where you can just take a swing. I think you're in a position now where you probably want to draft a forward just because the guard rotation is pretty weak here. Like, I like Jace here. I think he would be an interesting fit. But I think Colin Murray-Boyles will fall. And I think a team like the Nets, who need some upside, who needs somebody who can theoretically be second or third best option, somebody who can be maybe that McCall type. I don't necessarily have Murray-Boyles comp to a McCall, but I think Colin Murray-Boyles is a totally fine upside swing that I think the Nets would take. I think he fills a role. I think he fills an open position, and I really like him there. Next up, we have the Miami Heat. They're interesting because I don't know what the hell their plan is. I don't know, are they trying to still trade for a star? That's funny, they still have Dwayne Wade on the roster. I don't know if they're trying to trade for a star. I don't know if they're trying to blow it up. They don't have their picks, I believe, for a little while now. But do they work on getting rid of Wiggins? Do they work on getting... Actually, I think they would trade Rozier in a heartbeat if they could. But do they cut Duncan Robinson, who has an early termination option? How much do they value Davion Mitchell? How much do they value Tyler Hero? How much do they value somebody like a Kello Ware? I don't know the evaluation of, like, the guys on this team. I don't know how much the Heat like them. I don't know how much they're willing to trade them. I've seen Hero be in some trade rumors. I've seen Wiggins be in some trade rumors. I've seen Rozier be in trade rumors. Like, I don't know if anybody on this team is necessarily safe outside of Bam. But knowing the Heat, they're going to value everybody pretty highly. And they're going to value guys to the point where they think they can win. Hence why you trade for Andrew Wiggins rather than a bunch of picks. So I think they're still looking to compete. I think they're going to take an older player. I think Walter Clayton is a good fit here. Somebody who has a bit of on-ball juice. Somebody who can play over Terry Rozier, just because I think Terry Rozier is cooked. Somebody who should be able to play over Davion Mitchell, or maybe even next to him. And somebody who can fit well with a Ware and with a Adebayo. Walter Clayton, older player, led his team to the championship. I like him here. I could see them going like an Asa or a Jace, but I'd be surprised. The Heat always like their older players. The Heat always like guys who had success and productivity in college, and Walter Clayton fits that. Next up, we have my Utah Jazz. I've seen Asa Newell mock to them a lot, and I don't love it. I don't love the fit. I understand why, but I'm lower on him than others. We already have quite a few forwards in Lowry, who, if we trade, then maybe. And Collins, who, depending on what we do, maybe. Like whether or not he takes that player option. We have KJ Martin, who we traded for. As much as I think he's total shithouse, I think the Jazz value him much more than the rest of the league. We have Taylor Hendricks, who's coming back from injury. We have Cody Williams, who's theoretically a 2-3, but played a little bit of 4. We have Filipowski, who's probably best at 4. We have Walker Kessler, who's the center, but somebody who might be able to switch into that 4 spot next to like a flip. I don't know. We have a lot of big players. We have a lot of small guards. And so I don't think Asa fits in super well. I think the Jazz are going to want to take some sort of upside swing. I think the Jazz are probably going to work on drafting a wing. And as much as I hate it, they might draft Liam McNeely. I hate it. I do. Right? Like I'm not happy about it. 38% from the field, not a great shooter from 3. He's a guy who's mocked as a big 3-point shooter, maybe a little bit of on-ball juice. I hate it. I hate the pick. But he's white. He's big. He can shoot. That's something that sounds like the Angels would like cream their pants over. So I'm going to go with McNeely here. It makes me want to jump off a bridge. I'd much rather have a Ben Sirah, Nolan Traore, and Asa Newell. But I think they totally go with somebody like him here. Now, the Hawks are interesting because, again, they do have a pretty well-rounded team in terms of players, but they are pretty weak at center. Clint Capella, getting up there. Onyeka Okongwu, I think they've realized is now best of 4. Mohamed Gay, I actually think he's a pretty interesting player, but I don't know if the team values him that high. And then Dami Barlow is the only other guy who they have at the 4-5 position, although he's much more of a 3-4 in my opinion. So I think they go a guy who can play the 5. I could see that being in Asa. I think he would fit well next to Trey or Kasparas. I could see that being a Cal Brenner. I could see that being a Joanne Beringer. And by all reports, they are looking at some centers. Like, this isn't just me pulling shit out of my ass. I could see them going a Renaud, but I think they go with Asa Newell here. I think he's a guy that the league values much higher than everybody else. I think he can be a good lob threat with Trey. I think he can be a interesting player, an interesting development player, and I think he's somebody that the Hawks would value highly if he fell. My acid reflux is killing me. Next up, we have the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, I'm of the opinion they need a point guard and bad. Bruce Brown, maybe. DeJounte probably out for most of next year, and even so, I don't know how much I value him. Trey Murphy could be traded. I know he's not a point guard, but could be traded. He's one of their creators. Jordan Hawkins seems like a bust. Jose Alvarado's okay, but getting up there in age. Jared Harper is an interesting player, but not somebody I think they value. BJ Boston did get some run, and same with Lester Quinones. But I don't know if they value any of those guys enough to put him at point guard or put him at the 2 guard. I love a Jace Richardson here. The issue is the Pelicans have always been a size first team. There's a reason they drafted Brandon Ingram. There's a reason they traded for DeJounte Murray. There's a reason they have Herb Jones. There's a reason they have Trey Murphy. They've always been They've always been a team who loves big players. Now, Joe Dumars is the GM there now, and he hasn't been GM for such a long time. I don't know what his draft philosophy is going to be. I'm picking a Jace Richardson here, even though he is smaller. He's not huge. I'm pretty high on Jace. I think I have him end of the lottery, end of the lottery, early teens. I guess late teens because, 15, whatever. But I think Jace Richardson would be a really good fit here. I think you probably want to work on getting rid of CJ. I think you probably want to work on getting rid of Trey Murphy. I know he doesn't play the 3, but you need creation and you need shooting. I think Jordan Hopkins seems like a bust. I don't trust him at all. I think Jace Richardson, I wish he was a better passer, but I think he has enough feel for the game to be an interesting piece next to Zion, next to Kelly, next to Murphy or Jones, whoever ends up being there. And I think they just need a guy who can play. This team is really bad at guard, and I think Jace Richardson just slots in perfectly. Next up, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder again. This one's pretty easy. I'm going to go with Ben Sarah here. Bit of an unknown player, only 19. Sort of a weirder player. He's from Israel. I apologize. He is playing in Israel, okay. He's somebody who could be a bit of a scorer, could be a bit of a passer, but he's also sort of an unknown. He's huge. He's 6'6". He's foreign. That sounds like a Sam Presti guy to me. He's somebody who could theoretically play the 1, 2, and the 3 with his size. I totally see the Thunder drafting him. Next up, we have the Magic. Now, the Magic, I believe, still need a point guard. I don't trust... that's funny, Cole Anthony's still on here. Is this the draft pick that's going to the Grizzlies? No, because it said... I don't know why Desmond Bane's not on here then. Well, I'm going to draft as if they have Desmond Bane, so... I still think they need a point guard. I don't know how much they trust Anthony Black. I don't know how much they trust Suggs to stay healthy or be a primary playmaker. And outside of that, you don't have any point guards. I think Nolan Traore is a really interesting guy. They tend to not draft foreign players a lot. But around here, point guards get pretty weak. I have the next best point guard being Proctor after Traore. I think Proctor is probably a second-round talent, and I think the league views him that way as well. I could see them going as center just because of Mo Wagner's injury. I could see them going maybe a 2-guard just to replace that Cole Anthony Kentavious Caldwell Pope position. But I think they go point guard. I think they take another swing at it. And I think they go Nolan Traore. Nolan Traore is a guy that I have a little bit higher than other people. He's not a great shooter, which I don't love fit-wise. But I think they need a point guard. I think they want a guy that has a bit of upside to him, especially this late in the draft. And I think Nolan Traore just fits well. Next up, we have the Nets again. Again, I think they're just fine with taking swings. I'm going to go with Adu Thiero. I am higher on Adu than other people. He is incredibly raw, but he's 6'8". He grew 8 inches in a year. Actually, no, 12, because he was 5'8". He said the issue with his shooting is he's not used to being so big. He was getting adjusted to his size. But Very raw. I know we drafted a wing last time. But I think a Adou Thiero is a good swing for them. And then it is the Nets again. Now, I don't know if I want to go like only wings for them. Because they already do have a bunch of guys that I don't think they're investing in, but a bunch of guys that I think they probably find interesting. So I think that would probably be it in terms of wings. So I think they probably go guard. I think they probably could go wing again, maybe a forward center. But I think they go guard here. And so I am going to take, where is he at? There's no way he's this low, right? Did I draft him already? I might have already drafted him. I'm not going to say who I was looking for because it's embarrassing if I do, just because I think I did draft him. But I'm going to go with Cam Jones. Now, Cam Jones does muck in as more of a scorer type with a bit of passing. He is older. I don't love him as a player, but I think he could be an interesting fit on there. I think he fills a need, and I think the Nets are just totally fine with drafting older players at this point, especially so far into the draft. Now we have the Boston Celtics. I don't know what the Boston Celtics are doing this year. Do they trade Brown? Do they trade Holiday? Do they trade White? Do they trade, a Tingus? Do they trade a Cornette? Are they trying to get out of the cap? Are they trying to get out of the aprons? I don't know what they do. I think at the very least, you probably want to try and keep contending, even if you know you won't win without Tatum. So I think you probably want to try and take a win-now guy who is a center, just because I think their center rotation is pretty weak. I don't trust Tingus' health, and as much as I love my guy from Utah State, what's-his-face, Nemesh Keita, I don't know if you trust him much either. He's already 25. I think you need a center, and I think Maxime Reynaud is an interesting fit. Somebody who could be a 3-and-D player, somebody who can pass a little bit, somebody who can rebound, and I think you could add an interesting aspect to that team if, a Tingus were out, if a Horford were out, and so I think he's a great fit there, and I think he's somebody that they would totally take. Next up, we have the Suns. Now, the Suns are interesting because do they trade Kevin Durant? Do they trade Booker? Do they have anybody else that a team wants? Probably not, but they're way over in the cap. They don't have a ton of picks coming up in the future. They're mostly owned by the Rockets and I think the Nets. So I don't know what they do. I don't know what they do. I think they go for an upside swing here just because you're not going to be able to draft a lot. You're not going to be able to draft a lot coming up in the future. I know the team doesn't really value drafting or scouting, and so this is a bit of a pickle because I could see them going somebody with like a very high production, like a Yannick Cohen-Niederhauser. I think I could totally see them going with a Elijah Martin, Javon Small, R.J. Lewis, Sion James, because very rarely do they draft foreign. I could see them going Will Riley, even though his production isn't insane. I think they probably go wing or forward or center. And I think Johnny Broome, as much as I dislike him as a player, I say dislike. I'm sure they're all great people. And if they aren't, I haven't heard anything on them. I haven't been following them all that closely, but as much as I don't love him as a player, I think Johnny Broome fits a need. As disgusting as that front court defense would be, I think he fits a need, and I think he's somebody the Suns would totally draft. The few times they have drafted, they tend to go older, and they tend to go guys who have good production. Johnny Broome, 19 points, 3 assists, 10 rebounds, 51% from the field. Next up is the Clippers. The Clippers are interesting because what are they looking to do this year? Are they looking to get back in contention? Are they looking to take a step back? Are they looking to keep Harden and Kawhi? Who all do they re-sign? Who all, like, are they trying to make another trade? They are a weirdly well-rounded team. So I don't really know what to do here. Very rarely are the Clippers in a position to draft. So I don't know what they value. I don't necessarily know what they're looking for. But I'm going to take, in this situation, somebody who I like. Somebody who I think would be a good fit with them, and somebody who I think could thrive on that team. I'm going to take Tyrese Proctor. Now, Proctor's an interesting player. Didn't get a ton of, great run. I'm lower on him than others, but he's 21, 6'6", has a bit of passing ability. I know he only averaged 2 assists this year, but he was playing with some elite players. I could see him being a guy who just totally got carried by his team. But I think he does have a bit of passing upside. I think he does have a bit of scoring upside. I don't know how much they value Ben Simmons, and I think this team does need a backup point guard. And so I am going to go with Tyrese Proctor. And that is it. That is my first round. Can I do the second round? Well, either way, so this is the mock draft I have for what I think teams would do. I have Cooper Flag 1, Dylan Harper 2, VJ Edgecombe 3, Ace Bailey 4, Trey Johnson 5, Derek Queen 6, Thomas Sorber 7, Kamon Malwatch 8, Noah Essengay 9. I did not realize I drafted Sorber over Kamon Malwatch. That was dumb. I would have reversed those. Con Knipple 10, or Noah Essengay 9, Con Knipple 10, Carter Bryant 11, Danny Wolf 12, Kaspar Shakichonis 13, Cedric Howard 14, Jeremiah Fears 15, Nick Clifford 16, Rasheer Fleming 17, Igor Niman 18, Colin Murray Boyles 19, Walter Clayton 20, Liam McNeely 21, Hassan Newell 22, 23 I have Jace Richardson, 24 Ben Saraf, 25 Nolan Traore, 26 Adu Theroux, 27 Cam Jones, 28 Maxime Renaud, 29 Johnny Broom, 30 Tyrese Proctor. So that's what I think these teams would do. I think it's going to be a really interesting draft night. I predict at least 1-2 trades happening. All the reports I've seen from guys like Sean, it's guys you know. It doesn't really matter. All the reports I've seen seem to say that there's going to be some sort of trade on draft night. I don't know if it's a big one. I don't know if it's a minor one. But I think we see some movement. Right now, we don't have a ton of information on who guys like. We don't have a ton of information on who teams are working out yet. And so, I just don't know. But this is how I think it turns out, at least similarly. Sorber over Malwatch was an accident on my part. I love Sorber, but not over Malwatch. But, yeah. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you enjoyed it. Let me know if there's anything I can do to improve my videos. I'd say subscribe, share, hit the like, whatever, all that fun stuff. But unfortunately, I can't control you. So if you did enjoy, like. If you didn't enjoy, dislike, like, whatever. Whatever you want to do is cool with me. You're the best. Peace.